Now so you spent a lot of time down in Argentina. You said you were living down there at one point?
I lived cumulatively, I spent more than a year living in a tent in Argentina.
In a tent?
Yeah.
In Patagonia?
Yeah. Southernmost Patagonia.
You know, here's the thing. Let's look at two things that are found that are considered incredible economic opportunities. You got gold and you got oil. Those are just two. Gold, we put on jewelry. It's like a fashion symbol, a lot of other things as well. It's a store of value. Oil is obviously something that helps run the world. So you're on oil, you can sell that. But shouldn't there be some sort of, I don't know, like public interest protection on history per se?
There should be, and there are laws like that in most countries. So
Yeah.
where I worked in Argentina for so many years, it doesn't matter if it's on public or private land. When you put your finger on a dinosaur fossil, it becomes property of the federal government of Argentina at that moment.
Here's the thing. I'm not even saying it has to be property of the government, but it should be in the interest of something that's not economic, like protectionism. You know what I mean? Meaning, if there's history to be uncovered there, people like you, a professional, should be allowed to come in, and there should be a law that says you're allowed to come in to excavate that. And then let's say you're not allowed to make money on the private market from that. That would be perfectly fair to me.
I agree. And, the one of the problems with private collecting is that, it's driven by money. And so they're interested in getting that bone that skeleton out of the ground as quickly as possible. When I'm excavating a dinosaur, I spend as much time on the sediment that surrounds the dinosaur as I do on the fossils themselves, because the sediment preserves the paleo environment.
The paleo environment?
Yeah. So, was it a floodplain? Was it a coast? Was it a mangrove ecosystem? I imagine if you were an alien and you came by Earth and you beamed up a lion, but you didn't know anything about the African savanna. What do you know about a lion?
It's just a thing in space.
You know nothing really, right? So you pluck these dinosaur skeletons from the ground. You don't do the paleo environmental work. You don't really know anything about these animals. That's where the story is.
Yes. You're basically able to paint the context and setting by doing that, essentially.
Yeah, and you start to understand the ecology and and the climate and all kinds of other things. So it's really, I excavate so methodically. 17 years to go 250 square meters.
250 meters in 17 years.
Yeah. So
what is it, just for the layman out there, which is me? What does that look like? Like, are you going in there and each day you have a specific, like, I'm going to get through these 2 inches and here's
Well,
how
we
I'm
grid it
doing
out in 1 meter squares. Some of my excavators that have been trained on the team, are more experienced and can go faster than others. Some people might spend weeks on a single square meter.
Yeah.
And we work with, we'll go through with, like, I like to use a flathead screwdriver with my thumb on top and just kind of go through by feel. And, and then we'll use like a putty knife and paintbrushes and dental picks.
Whoa.
And it's meticulous work. Now that's for the kinds of deposits we have at the fossil park. It's different. Like where I work in Patagonia, the way I prospect is with a pickaxe. And
with a pickaxe?
Yeah, and a pickaxe is a skill. Like I would have to teach my grad students like the proper way to swing a pickaxe. It's like swinging a baseball bat. There's a whole form that goes into it, right? And the way you prospect with a pickaxe is by sound. So when you're hitting the rock, it sounds one way. If you hit a fossil, it rings a little bit. And if you're good, you only hit the dinosaur once.
That's what I would think. Like something like that sounds like a risk of damaging a bone or something.
Well, that's why they make a product called Paleobond.
Paleobond.
Paleobond, made just for us paleontologists.
How does that work?
It's basically super glue. Every now and then you break a fossil and you glue it back together.
Now, you spent a lot of time down in Argentina. You said you were living down there at one point?
I lived cumulatively, I spent more than a year living in a tent in Argentina.
In a tent?
Yeah.
In Patagonia?
Yeah. Southernmost Patagonia, outside a little town called El Calafate. It's very far south.
Now, over what time period were you doing this?
My first expedition down there was 2004, and I ran expeditions there 2004, 5, 6, 7, and 9.
What drew you to that area?
Well, I had been working in the Sahara Desert of Egypt in a very lonely place called the Bahariya Oasis, which is basically nowhere. It's halfway between the Mediterranean and Sudan, halfway between the Nile and Libya. And I'd gone there with a team of colleagues from the University of Pennsylvania, and we were endeavoring to find what were known as the lost dinosaurs of Egypt. There were 4 species of dinosaurs that were found around 1911 by a German paleontologist named Ernst Stromer von Reichenbach. And he excavated
Sounds like
these
an
fossils.
soldier.
He seems like he was a good guy, actually.
Okay. He was early enough.
He eventually got these fossils to the Bavarian Museum of Paleontology in Munich, and they were on display there for decades. And then in April of 1944, they were bombed by a British air raid. And the museum and those fossils were destroyed. Now, most dinosaur species are known from a single specimen. So the species were gone to science.
Oh, man.
And they became known as the lost dinosaurs of Egypt. So for decades, paleontologists tried to get back in there. They would write the authorities in Cairo, never get a response. In the 80s, they would fax. In the 90s, they would email, and nobody ever got a response. And then me and this group from UPenn, we got some money from a film company to go find the lost dinosaurs of Egypt.
A film company?
Yeah.
Like a Hollywood film company?
Yeah. There's a 2-hour documentary that was on A&E called The Lost Dinosaurs of Egypt. And it was actually in part funded by Julian, Carl Sagan's widow, who Carl Sagan was like my hero.
That might be in the title of this episode, just to let you know. It's pretty fire. Lost Dinosaurs of Egypt.
Yeah.
People are clicking
well, that's old news for me, though. But so we don't get an answer either, but we've got the money, and so we figure, well, screw it, we're just going to go. So we go to Egypt, we find the head dude's office, we sit in his lobby for 4 days, smile politely and drink tea. I was never more caffeinated while he walks in and out, completely ignoring us, and then finally he stops and signs our desert permits just to get us the hell out of his office. Previous to that, I had worked with the family of that old paleontologist, Ernst Stromer, and I had access to his field journals and his maps.
Did he have pictures of this stuff though too? I would
Illustrations.
imagine?
Well, he had some photographs that I found later in the museum.
Because it's destroyed in 1944, so I imagine someone took a picture in the museum, right?
Yeah, I found them in the attic of the museum, actually. There's some photographs.
Okay.
If you look up Stromer Spinosaurus photograph, you might find it.
Because that at least gives you something to work with. You can see the outline.
Well, we had his technical papers, so we had a pretty good idea of what it would have looked like. So we go there. Those pictures there, I found those photos in the museum that you see published there.
And that's the Spinosaurus in question right there from Egypt?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, maybe they built the pyramids.
Probably not.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
I can hope, though. You know.
So I find Stromer's Spinosaurus quarry, and I find 100-year-old German newsprint, like things don't, degrade too much in the desert. I find sardine cans. I find burlap. I find plaster. He doesn't leave a single bone behind. But in the course of prospecting in the Bahariya Oasis, we find a new species of dinosaur that we named Paralititan. We publish it in 2001. At the time, it's the world's second largest dinosaur.
Paralititan.
Paralititan means tidal giant. The geology that I did there showed that Paralititan lived in a tidal mangrove forest very far from the mainland. So this is the first mangrove living dinosaur that we knew about.
Is that it?
Sort of, yeah.
Did you come up with the name yourself, or the team did?
I did, yeah.
So you've named a few dinosaurs.
I have named a few, yeah. Yeah. So that's 2001, early in 2001, and then 9/11 happens. And now it doesn't look like we're going back to Egypt. And there was actually some terrorist activity in the Bahariya Oasis. Yeah. And so I set my sights on southernmost Patagonia because it's a place I can see that has rocks of the right age. They're sedimentary rocks, so you can form fossils. And there's vast exposures of those rocks, like badlands. Imagine the badlands of South Dakota, times 25. Right.
Whoa.
And better yet, no paleontologist had really worked within about 1,000 kilometers of that site, which means you have a very good probability of finding new species if you're finding stuff there. So perfect conditions for me.
You lived in a tent, you said.
Yeah, yeah. So I get down there. The first field season is really rough.
Yeah.
There's a dirt road that I have to travel on 4 hours outside of town. And then I don't have any way to get across this river. There's no bridge. So I have to raft across this roaring glacial stream every time I want to get to the site or every time I want to go back to town for supplies. We find some huge, huge bones that year. But I have no way to get them out of the desert. So I hire a couple of gauchos and their horses, and we cover these bones in burlap and plaster to protect them. And then I got this piece of corrugated metal, and we make a sled out of it, and we pad it out with prairie grass, and we strap the bones to it, and the gauchos drag the bones with their horses out of the desert that way. And that was our first field season.
It's a movie. That's a movie.
It's a wild sight. The wind in Patagonia is ferocious. Like you can't keep bees in Patagonia because they just go away.
Yeah.
And there were always scorpions under my tent. There were oftentimes puma tracks outside my tent in the
I was just going
morning.
to bring up pumas. They roam that land like crazy.
Yeah, they're very shy though. The gauchos have hunted them mercilessly. So
so they don't come after you at all?
no. I've saw tracks many, many times. I never saw a puma itself.
Yeah. I was watching, I love those Netflix documentaries like Our Planet and all that. So I'll sit up at night watching that. But I was watching an episode on the pumas down in Patagonia. Patagonia is such a strange landscape because, you picture, I don't know, something more simple like a desert, like the Sahara. It's just a lot of dirt and it's hot and everything. And then Patagonia has these valleys and then roaming hills, and it's got some vegetation.
It's so
not a
beautiful.
ton. It's amazing.
If you just search my name in Patagonia, you'll probably see a bunch of pictures.
What a flex. Just search my name.
Sorry.
I'm like Mr. Patagonia. I'm the mayor, actually. There we go.
Yeah, there's probably some landscape picture. Well, there's that fourth one is me laying next to a big bone of Dreadnoughtus there in the field.
We're going to talk about that. That's the one that we found. Thank you guys for checking out this clip. If you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe and hit the like button on this video. It is a huge, huge help. And if you'd like to check out this clip's full podcast episode, that link is in the description below or right here. And finally, you can follow me on Instagram and X by using the links in my description below.